Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual session for Global Bar Week. I am Camille Vidal. I am the founder of La Maison Wellness, and today I'm really excited to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, mindful drinking and mindful cocktails. The aim for this session is for you to understand the rise of mindful drinking, the boom of the non-alcoholic spirits, and how you can create an offer that is inclusive and that stay relevant to what the consumer wants to drink. Sounds good? Amazing. I am going to share a presentation, so you will see me on the top corner, but I think it's important for you to also see some of the numbers that I will be sharing with you, some of the information, and you can screen grab as much as you want. We will also make sure that we have all the content available for the entire week for you. And then I will also share my contact at the end of the presentation, so you can always reach out and ask any question you may have about mindful drinking, about mindful cocktails, and all the incredible mindful non-alcoholic spirits that are available in the market. So let's begin. Just give me one moment to share this presentation and we should start. Amazing. So as I was saying, I am the founder of La Maison Wellness. I'm sure that many of you have known me from my days as Madame Saint-Germain. I have been in the industry for 15 years. I had the opportunity to travel around the world to connect with so many of you. And a couple of years ago, I've decided that I wanted to really bring this conversation around mindful drinking to become one of the leaders in this movement and to create delicious mindful cocktails to be able to share with consumers, with all of you around the world, and to really bring this conversation to hospitality industry. So, as I was saying, many years as Madame Saint-Germain, the global ambassador for Saint-Germain. I also wrote 2 books around the art of the aperitif. I was Tales of the Cocktail winner as a global ambassador, etc., etc. But let's talk about La Maison Wellness and what it is. So La Maison Wellness is a multimedia platform dedicated to expanding the conversation around mindful drinking and conscious consumption, with the purpose to inspire people to drink well and to live like healthy hedonists. And really this concept of healthy hedonism is something that I wanted to bring and to share with the world. This idea of how can we drink better? How can we celebrate well so we live fully, but in a way that is a bit more conscious and in a celebration that make us feel good. So I launched La Maison Wellness as a website where you will be able to find all my mindful cocktail recipes. I do a lot of consulting. I do a lot of talking like this at loads of different trade shows, but also for consumer. I'm fortunate to be based in London in the UK, which is very much the pioneer and the hub where so much is happening in the mindful drinking movement. I am on national TV here, having the opportunity to talk about non-alcoholic and low ABV and to bring those cocktails to the masses. So it's been an amazing journey, and I love being able to share very much my passion for this movement. But let's understand a bit more what is this movement and what does it mean creating cocktails that are without alcohol or with less alcohol. So the seminar today for Global Bar Week is called Mindful Cocktails, A New Way to Drink. So when we look at the mindful drinking movement, I love to say that it's actually not a trend, it's a movement. I think a lot of people are talking about, this new trend that is coming with people drinking less or not drinking at all any alcohol. And I like to look at it as more of a movement that is growing and expanding around the world. And why is this movement happening? We see that people are becoming more and more aware and conscious of what they consume. We also see that younger generation are drinking less. And we also see that there is more and more option available for sophisticated and delicious non-alcoholic and low alcohol spirits or options. And I think all of that is really one of the reasons why it's growing and expanding. So rather it is for personal reason, for cultural reason, or just because we want a new lifestyle, the mindful drinkers numbers are growing every day. And if you look a bit more of the reason why this movement is expanding, and I think for a very long time, when we were talking about non-alcoholic or people weren't drinking, or we had a guest coming to the bar and saying, oh, I'm not drinking alcohol tonight, can I have something alcohol free? Very often our mind will go straight away on it's a health condition. Rather, it is someone who has been struggling and is recovering from addiction, or even sometimes a health condition for the people not being able to drink alcohol. In very, very few cases, even an allergy to alcohol. And very often the pregnant ladies that will come to the bar and ask for something that is non-alcoholic. And even though, of course, this is a part of the mindful drinker and the people that will request something that is non-alcoholic, but that's not it. I think there's so many more reasons why people aren't drinking. I think that, of course, there is the cultural reason, either the religion or the different belief for people to not drink alcohol. But even with that we're more used to and that we know a bit more, this reason behind adopting the mindful drinking movement or embracing this, either cutting in out or cutting down, there's many, many more reasons behind it. One of them being the wellness and the mindfulness movement that is happening globally all around the world. I mean, wellness and mindfulness have been at the center of the conversation for the past few years. We understand the importance of our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And more than that, I think people understand the relationship between that and what we consume. Understanding that conscious consumption is so essential in the picture of our well-being, that what we eat, we drink has an impact on our body, but also on our minds. We've seen a lot of people becoming more and more vocal about their decision to cut out or cut down for mental health reasons, because they just felt like that they will be able to balance their mental health in a better way, or to just feel better when drinking less alcohol. So I really think that the wellness and the mindfulness and how it becomes more and more mainstream is one of the reasons why people are more conscious about what they consume. Another reason that we really see coming up when we ask mindful drinkers of why they are mindful drinkers is career. And actually, talking about my experience, this is the reason why I became a mindful drinker. I'm asked all the time, if I had to hit rock bottom to change my relationship with alcohol, or if I had any big stories of why I woke up one day and I was like, this is it, I'm never drinking ever again. And I am a mindful drinker, but I am a moderate mindful drinker, which means that I will imbibe sometime when I feel like it. But I'm just much more conscious about how I drink and what I drink. And really, my journey as a mindful drinker started because I needed the clarity of mind to be able to chase my dreams, to be able to build my own business, to be able to really do what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of people come to this point when they're just so busy with their career that they just don't have the time for a hangover. They don't have this desire to wake up with a cloudy mind, not even a hangover, but just being a little bit cloudy and not able to really tap into their full power. So career, and very demanding and very competitive career, is one of the reasons we see people moderating. That doesn't mean that people that are successful are all mindful drinkers. And there's definitely people that have big career and working really hard and that still, imbibe quite heavily, let's say. But we see that this is something that comes up when we ask mindful drinker on why they are moderating or cutting it out completely. Another one that we often hear is the responsibility, either from the designated driver, but also from people, drinking and going to meetings and spending more time in venues in the daytime. Maybe this, this lunch meeting, this afternoon meetings at a venue where people have responsibility either at work or with their family after, where they can't drink, and that is also something that we see coming up. And even more on the family side, actually, we often hear mindful drinkers saying, I'm not drinking because I need to, go and get my kids at school after. And that doesn't even mean that they are driving, but more that they want to be responsible and they want to be able to fully be themselves. So responsibility is one that also come up. I just added the last one because it makes me giggle a little bit. Image is actually one of the reason that comes up when we ask mindful drinker. And so, as I was mentioning, we see that younger generation are actually drinking less alcohol, and some of the study shows or says, let's say, that one of the reason is because of the impact of social media and these, big movement of the selfies and people taking photos of themselves and sharing it on social media. And I'm sorry to break this news to you, but at 2 a.m, when you have had one too many, you do not look great. You can put as many filters as you wish, you're definitely not going to look great. And I think a lot of people are a bit more conscious of what they share on social media, and for that reason find a little bit more balance on how they drink alcohol. So now that we understand a bit more of the reason, the many reasons behind that movement, I think what's important to remember is what is the mindful drinker and what is the mindful drinking movement. And very often when we talk about the mindful drinking movement, instantly we think sober, when actually mindful drinking, as it says in the title, is about becoming more mindful. May for you that might means moderation, or for some people that means cutting out alcohol, and again, looking at all the different mindful drinkers that are on this image, you can see that the person who's decided to cut down alcohol or cut out alcohol for lifestyle reason, to be more mindful and to look after their wellness and be after their well-being, maybe physical, emotional, or mental, isn't the same as someone who is allergic to alcohol and cannot imbibe at all, or is not drinking for cultural reason or for religious belief, etc., etc. And I think that sometimes we try to put everyone in the same basket because it is a new movement and there's not as many mindful drinkers as there are drinker that drink regular strength cocktail. And so I think it's important to remember that we don't have all the same motivation behind the reason why we decide to cut down or cut out alcohol. So if we look at the numbers of mindful drinking movement, and I am based in London, so I'm going to share the numbers that I'm the most familiar with, which are the UK numbers. I do have some that are for global, and I'm more than happy to dig more into it and share for like specific countries if you reach out to me, but those ones are for the UK. So in the UK, 20% of the population don't drink alcohol at all. And I think that's a really, really big number. And I'm just going to clarify one thing here. I am talking about the adult population, not counting younger population in this, very much just the people that are in age to be able to drink alcohol, but decide that they don't want to drink alcohol. And 20% is a pretty big number when you look at it. We also see that 42% of the adult UK drinkers have made an effort over a period of time to cut down their drinking. So that means that they are not the sober person, they are not the person who are teetotal, not drinking alcohol at all, but they are the one that wants to moderate. They are the one that wants to make a difference and want to find more balance in the way that they consume. We also see that 59% of the UK adult drinkers have tried low and no drinks, with 23% that have decided after that to change their drinking habits. And so that really shows that people are motivated to find better balance and to cut down or to find the balance that works for them, but also excited to try the new offers that are coming into the market. We also see that, and those numbers are global, that 8.6% is the expected growth of no alcohol mixed drinks. That 1 in 5 of the age 22 to 24 years old report that they have not had an alcoholic drink in the previous 3 months. And it also shows that 80% of the bartenders will be featuring a non-alcoholic cocktail on their menu. So really that bartenders are understanding and embracing that movement because consumers are coming to the bar and asking for it. So I hope that when you see those numbers, your mind goes straight away onto opportunities, because I really think that this is also a huge opportunity. Of course, it is about having an offer that is inclusive for everyone, that is making sure that the 20% of the population that don't drink alcohol, and in the US it's 30% of the population, is, able to go to your bar and to feel as welcome and as looked after as the rest of the guests. Because for me, that is the definition of hospitality. We are, working in an industry that is about making people feel at home, making people feel looked after, and making people feel like they belong. And I think that for that, it's really essential and important to have an inclusive offer that is allowing every single guest to find something that is relevant for them. But it's also an opportunity for your business, because if people learn how to moderate, that means they can switch on, between alcoholic and non-alcoholic if they want to. And for you, that means that you can also retain your guests at the bar for maybe a longer period of time. They might have something that is alcoholic and then non-alcoholic, have a little bit of food, and just stay for the experience a little bit longer. It also means that for the mindful drinker that are not drinking alcohol and are going to bars with their friend that drink alcohol, and often end up with a club soda, with something that is really uninspiring and that will be on the soft drink menu at something very low price, you're missing on an opportunity here. You are actually have an amazing opportunity to upsell and have those people to also have a cocktail, to also spend some money in your bar, and not only feel looked after and have the same experience than the other friend and not feeling like they're just tagging along for their friend experience, but also for you in terms of revenue, it is really an amazing opportunity. You can also look into recruiting more people into your bar. Those, the 20% of the population, or depending on where you are in the world, let's call it the percentage of the population that don't drink alcohol and probably don't feel comfortable coming into your bar just because they assume that they're not going to have anything that they will enjoy or anything that they can drink. And for you to have a very delicious, sophisticated, non-alcoholic offer, that means that you can attract this population that at the moment don't really feel like they can go out and enjoy that type of experience. And then I think over time, when we look at how this movement is growing, it is important for us professionals in hospitality industry and for bars and restaurants and venues all around the world to stay relevant to the movement that are happening around the world, to what consumer want. And if the consumer wants to be more conscious and more, mindful in the way that they imbibe, then we should have an offer for everyone. You might not be, the person who understand why there's people that are going gluten-free or vegan, but you still want to be able to look after those people when they come into your restaurant and when they come into your bar. So I think that making the offer as inclusive as possible, that is very much the definition of hospitality, but it's also making sure that your business is doing everything it can to make revenue for itself. And I think that when we see all those amazing venues opening all around the world that are dedicated to non-alcoholic, it really shows that there is a demand. It really shows that there is a need for spaces that will really allow people to have an amazing time, an amazing experience, and to really embrace that movement. I think that food and drinks is an amazing way for people to connect, and I think that bars and restaurants and cafes have been forever this place where people will gather and share ideas and connect and have a great time. And I don't think that this should be limited to alcohol. I think that we can still have that. We can still have an amazing experience. We can still have this sense of connection with our friends, and this really elevated experience with something that is non-alcoholic, if what we have in the glass is as delicious as the rest and looks as beautiful and really feel like an experience. I don't think that anyone is drinking and going to bars to drink cocktail just for the alcohol content, just for the ABV in the glass. They want the flavor, they want the theater, the experience, the connection, the discovery, the excitement all around that, not just the ABV in the glass. And I think that by making sure that we have all options, then it's allowing everyone to have that experience. As I like to say at La Maison Wellness, we want epic nights, but we also want early mornings, and I think that this idea of epic nights is very much of, I still want that. I want to go out and have something that's going to excite my taste bud and, enjoy the moment and have amazing music and have so much fun with my friend. But then be able to wake up the day after and feeling like I can get up early, ready to tackle everything that I have in my schedule, and with a clear mind and all my energy. So when it comes to mindful drinking and to cocktails that are without alcohol or with less alcohol, language is everything. I think in life, language is everything anyway, but I do think that in this movement and in this mindful drinking movement that everyone is trying to navigate at the moment and to understand, it is really, really essential and key. And if you remember the different mindful drinkers motivation that I show you, that also show you that we don't all show up asking for non-alcoholic drinks or low ABV cocktail for the same reason. And that is really important to remember. I very often go to venues and see a confusion between soft drinks and alcohol-free cocktails. I will go to bars and say, do you have anything non-alcoholic on your cocktail menu? And they will say, yeah, go to the last page of the menu, next to the child menu, the kids menu at the back, and then you will find 2 soft drinks, and that's the offer. I think it's really, really important to remember that a soft drink isn't a cocktail. And we all know that because we're all passionate about making cocktails. But I do think that sometimes when it comes to non-alcoholic, because the offer that I see on menus is not as curated, is not as thoughtfully put together, that it feels a bit of an afterthought and something like, oh, I'm just going to put the soft drink, the sodas that I'm using for my cocktail menu, and that will do. So it's really important to remember that a soft drink versus an alcohol-free cocktail is just not the same. It's not the same in terms of experience. It's not the same in terms of flavor. It's not the same in terms of price point. When you make an alcohol-free cocktail with all the incredible ingredients that goes into the glass, the same care, the same passion, the same attention to details, and really serve something that looks exactly, if you look at this photo, this is an alcohol-free mojito. It looks, delicious. The glassware are great. Like all of that feels like an experience. And for that, you should charge the same price as the other cocktail. And I think there's a little bit of confusion of being like, I'm just going to put soft drinks as the non-alcoholic offer and not seeing the potential and the need for alcohol-free cocktails that are sophisticated and an experience, and that is a value on your menu. Now let's talk about the language. And also the image that people have in mind when they think of alcohol-free cocktail at the moment, unfortunately, and the work that us as professionals in the industry needs to do to correct that. There was this word adopted and created called mocktail, which has to stop. We do not need another word to talk about cocktails. A cocktail is a cocktail in a definition. It doesn't say that it has to be alcoholic. And we should mention that some of them are, regular strengths, low alcohol, light, or non-alcoholic, but we need to make sure that we use the right language. And if I'm honest, we still have a lot of work to do on how we can build a positive language around alcohol-free cocktail. Because if you look at it, non-alcoholic, it is still something that is negative. Mocktail is an absolutely no-no. Virgin cocktail sounds gross and no thank you. No guilt. I see a lot of guilt-free cocktail. Why? I think we need to explain to the consumer, explain to our guest that comes into our bars that we have created something that is the same way, that is flavor-led instead of being ABV-led, and that will be the same experience, and that this is alcohol-free. And I don't think that the conversation should be just around the fact that it's alcohol-free, but around the flavor and the cocktail that we created. So when you put your menu together, think of the word that you want to use. I tend to use alcohol-free and non-alcoholic because I call my cocktail mindful cocktails. So I explain the one that are low in alcohol and the one that are non-alcoholic. But I do think that we have some work to do on building this positive language that, again, will allow the guest to really feel like it's an experience and not just something that is an afterthought or something that is excluded. Remember, doing this is all about inclusivity. And if anything, if the non-alcoholic cocktails are at the back of the menu and they call mocktails, and it's just all of that isn't an enjoyable experience for your guests coming into the bar. So as I was saying, I call my cocktail mindful cocktails, and I put a lot of thought into what I wanted to call my drinks when I launched La Maison Wellness, and how I wanted to inspire people to drink in a different way and to bring a new lifestyle around the way that we celebrate. So I call mindful cocktails my cocktails because they are mindful in the whole approach of what I do, not just the ABV content, but also the ingredients that I'm using, the way that I invite people to enjoy them, etc., etc. So I will tend to say that I have non-alcoholic mindful cocktail or alcohol-free mindful cocktail, and then light or low ABV mindful cocktail. So if we look at more of what is the regulation around the world on what is non-alcoholic, what is considered non-alcoholic, and what is low ABV. This is a whole seminar to do, like a standalone piece, because there is so much work to be done. And the reason of that is because it's a very blurry kind of conversation all around the world, and there is more work that needs to be done by our organization to put regulation in place to make it clear on what is what. As a general rule, and please make sure that you check in your country, and also make sure that when you are looking into alcohol-free, you understand that there's a difference between what is an alcohol-free product, an alcohol-free spirit, and what is an alcohol-free cocktail, etc., etc. Because if you look at this, you are going to get into, and especially for alcohol-free is pretty straightforward, but when it comes into low ABV, a low ABV spirit versus a low ABV cocktail has different definition. So in most countries, except South Africa and maybe a few others, so please have a look. Anywhere else in Europe, in America, in Australia, anything that is below 0.5 is considered as alcohol-free, as non-alcoholic. So for your cocktail or for your spirits, and I will show you different brand after, if it's below 0.5, it is considered as alcohol-free. All right. So that means that it's really important for you to know what you are putting in the glass to make sure that you're keeping everything under 0.5. 0.5 means that the person who is driving, the designated driver, can still have something if it's below 0.5. They can still have the drink, they won't have any issue. The pregnant woman will still be able to have the cocktail if it's below 0.5. And I'm really explaining that because there's a lot of conversation at the moment on 0.0 versus 0.5. And it's important to understand that below 0.5, it is considered as alcohol-free. But that doesn't mean that like you don't want to explain. And we go back to language is everything, to make sure that you explain to your guests that there is traces of alcohol without scaring them. Because if you say to a person, there will be a little bit of traces of alcohol to a pregnant lady, or if you say, well, there's a little bit of alcohol to a pregnant lady, not explaining that it's below 0.5, which legally is considered as alcohol-free, then that person and your guest would just become confused and then, definitely don't want that drink. But it's just to make sure that like maybe when you put it on the menu, you put that it's below 0.5, or you explain, or when you go to your guest, you explain that. Because as much as, below 0.5 for pretty much everyone, it won't be an issue. There's some people that will refuse to have something that is still having a little bit of traces of alcohol. Maybe it's a person that is on the recovery from an alcohol addiction that has, swear to not touch anything that has even traces of alcohol. Maybe it's someone who is with the religion, don't want to touch anything, or maybe someone who has such a strong allergy to alcohol that even just a little bit will have damages. So I think it's important to understand the language that we put around it, but also to put it in context. So to come back to what I was saying, anything that is below 0.5 is considered as alcohol-free in Europe, US, Australia, and other countries around the world. I really invite you to have a look at what is in your country, but remember that. And just to put it in the context, anything that is made with fermentation would have traces of alcohol, like kombucha, like kefir, etc., etc. But that also includes things like the sourdough that you have been, baking over your lockdown every week contain alcohol, would have, below 0.5, sometimes even a bit more than that of alcohol. That, ripe banana that you ate for breakfast this morning will be around 0.3% of alcohol, and that obviously is alcohol-free. In your stomach, during your digestion, you would have a little bit of alcohol that is produced because of the fermentation of your digestive system with the food that you just eaten. So I think it's also just making sure that like we explain clearly on what it is. And for me, it's below 0.5, it's alcohol-free as the regulation says. I will put it on the menu, but I also, trust me, for being someone, for example, who is allergic to gluten on a pretty serious and will really feel the effect if I'm having something that contains gluten, I make sure that I ask. When I go to restaurant, I will ask. My friends who are allergic to nuts will make sure that they ask. And I think this is the same. We don't need to scare our guests. We need to explain and to make sure that the language is correct. But we also need to understand that below 0.5, it is considered as alcohol-free. Now, I didn't even touch on low ABV because there's so much to talk about this. So low alcohol, when it comes to a spirits, in most countries, the regulations say it has to be below 1.2%. This doesn't mean that it is the same for cocktails. Your cocktail should be considered as low alcohol or light in alcohol, can be a bit above that. At the moment, there is no clear definition on what is low alcohol, what is the limit of low alcohol cocktails. There is a definition for low alcohol spirits, as I said, is 1.2, but for low alcohol, it's there's no clear definition. For myself, I've decided that I wanted to keep everything below 8-9% ABV to the max. And for me, when I will say that I'm making a light or low alcohol mindful cocktail, it will be around 3% to 4% alcohol, kind of based on the ABV of a beer or something like this. But again, for a low ABV cocktail, there's no regulation, very clear at the moment, but there is some regulation for spirits. All of this to say, learn how to calculate ABV in your cocktail. I think if you have one thing that you need to remember or one screenshot that you need to do of this presentation is this one. Learn how to calculate the ABV of your cocktail because it is your responsibility to know what you serve to your guests, because your guests will come to your bar and trust you. They will come to your bar and trust the expertise of the professional behind the bar to make sure that like they are having what they order. So when you are building your non-alcoholic cocktail and playing with flavor and playing with fermented, ingredients and maybe adding a little bit of bitters, etc., make sure that you calculate everything that goes into the glass so you're 100% sure that this stays below 0.5. And that when you are making a low alcohol cocktail, you're not just gathering low ABV or lighter aperitif style ingredients that then added together will actually end up being quite high in ABV, but understand that you have to balance it and to keep it really low. Very often when I go to bar and I ask for something, low ABV, a bartender will make me something with, an aperitif and then a bit of champagne and a dash of absinthe and a spray of mezcal. And at the end of the day, this added together, well, this is not a low ABV beverage. So learn how to calculate, which is the volume of strong by the ABV divided by the sum of all the ingredients and then multiply by 100. All right. So now that we talked a little bit of what is the mindful drinking movement, who are the mindful drinkers, and what is, non-alcoholic cocktails and the language around it, let's talk about how we can make non-alcoholic cocktail or low ABV cocktail or a more mindful approach to making cocktails. So I like to look at it as like 3 different techniques. One is to remove the alcohol, or as I say, to take it out. And that's very much to take it out, all the alcohol from the cocktail that you're making, and use an alcohol-free spirit or replace it with different ingredients. The other technique will be to replace, as I like to say, to twist it up. And so to maybe use lower ABV product instead of the full strength spirits. And just to tweak things, and that doesn't mean that it has to be everything, but it might be one of the ingredients that you want to switch for something that is lower in alcohol. The other technique is to take it down, so to reduce the alcohol content by reducing the measure of the full strength spirit that you're using. So let's say that you are using a gin, a rum, or whatever, regular strength spirits that you're using, instead of using 2 ounces, to use 1, and then to build the cocktail around that with other ingredients. So you still have the botanicals from the gin coming through, but then you have all the different flavor in your cocktail that are built together, and the ABV of the cocktail will be lower. Remember that I'm talking about not just non-alcoholic spirit, non-alcoholic cocktail here, but a mindful approach to cocktail, which means they can be either alcohol-free or low ABV. And that's kind of how I look at creating my cocktails. Now, when you look at, I was saying, for example, removing the alcohol from your recipe. So if you were making a sour, for example, if you just remove the alcohol and don't put anything else, first of all, you would just have a lemonade. But also your cocktail will be too short and the balance isn't there. And then when you think of replacing it with an alcohol-free spirit, you have to understand that the alcohol-free spirit is going to bring the botanicals, it's going to bring the sophistication, the different layers and the depth in your cocktail, but it's also obviously not reacting and playing in the same manners that an alcoholic spirit will do, because there's no alcohol content. So in terms of mouthfeel, in terms of length, all of the palate, all of that is going to change. And so maybe you want to think of replacing it with an alcohol-free spirits, but also maybe adding another ingredients that's going to help and support the palate. Maybe adding something that will be some kombucha to bring a little bit more acidity and the effervescence that will help as well. Maybe it's some verjus, maybe it's some, botanicals that you want to add, and it's a syrup that you made with something that has a bit more herbaceous and a bit more length and a bit of bitterness. Generally, I think that adding a little bit of effervescence to non-alcoholic cocktail, it's a great way to bring out the flavor. Things like tonic water will really help with the quinine and all the botanicals to carry the flavor through. The bubbles, the carbonation will help the flavor to come out as well. And that doesn't mean that you can only make effervescent cocktail when you make alcohol-free cocktail, but that's all the different things that you want to look into. I always say that like when you look at making mindful cocktails, and so by that, by reducing the ABV, either to take it out completely or to reduce it to something really low, that means that you have to understand that everything will shine way more in your cocktail, that everything will show up as it is, which is an amazing thing in terms of playing with flavor and really seeing like the nuances that you can play with. But also that means that the quality of your citrus, the quality of every single ingredient that comes into the glass would have generally nothing to hide behind. So remember that when you're making cocktail, that the quality of the ingredients is essential for the experience of the guest, essential for the quality of the cocktail, but also essential for the taste. We talked a little bit about structure, on how you can really use different ingredients. I also think that there is an opportunity for us to really look into the rest of the ingredients and not just the spirit, either the alcohol-free or the alcoholic spirits, into the hero of the glass. What other ingredients are you using that are really elevating the experience? That can be from making sure that there's seasonal product, making sure that it's the best quality, using loads of different herbs and spices and botanicals that will really bring this amazing flavorful experience. But also even sometime looking into the functional benefits of the ingredients. You know, I like to use things like apple cider vinegar, and we know how beneficial it is for our body. I like to use even things sometimes like vitamins, like liquid vitamins D, or botanicals for the benefits of it, for the functional benefits of it. Either it is to add a little bit of like turmeric with black pepper and a touch of coconut oil to make it bioavailable and to boost immune system, to use fresh ginger and like a little bit of like spices for, you know, getting like through the winter with delicious cocktail. I think that like we need to look at cocktail with the full picture, not just the ingredients and like the spirits, alcoholic or not, that we put in the glass, but also all the other ingredients and how we can make sure that the experience is the best for the consumer. The other thing that I will say that is important to look into, because the mindful drinkers tend to be people that are mindful of what they also put in their body, is what type of sugar you're using. I personally try to stay away as much as I can from refined sugar, so I won't add any refined sugar to my drinks, but I would look into things like, you know, local honey that has amazing functional benefits as well, from, you know, the pollen around the area where you live in, but also the antifungal, antimicrobial benefits that honey has. Things like agave, using really good quality of blue agave, organic blue agave, or things like maple syrup. And even other things like birch syrup is an amazing alternative to sugar, or things like monk fruit is really, really beautiful because it has absolutely no impact on your sugar index. So I think all of that is important to look into, all the different alternatives and how you can build the cocktail, understanding the power of the ingredients. And then of course there are things like adaptogen and CBD, all of that can be explored, that might not resonate with every single guest, but actually I do think that are an amazing experience and something that can really support the experience of the guest in the way that like they want. A lot of people will drink alcohol because they want to relax, because they want to take the edge off, because they want a little bit of like burst of energy, etc., etc. And I actually think that there is ingredients in adaptogen, in botanicals, in things like CBD that do a way better job at that than alcohol does in the long run. And then think of not just the cocktail and what you put in the glass, but actually the occasion. Build your menu with occasion the same way that you will do for the rest of your cocktail. Is the alcohol-free cocktail for a brunch or for an afternoon cocktail or for an aperitif or for an evening? All of that will change the palate of the guest at that time. Your palate at brunch time is different than, mid-afternoon, than for your aperitif, when you tend to want something that has a little bit of like bitterness to stimulate your appetite, or something that is for the evening, either that like you want to pair it with food or you want to have that as your nightcap. So think of the occasion on when you are creating this cocktail. When is it for when you create the cocktail? Now, talking about all the different alternatives that we have. I mean, we are so fortunate that from the launch of Seedlip 5 years ago, who really opened the mind and paved the way to inspiring the world to drink differently, to now, when actually, I can see that on my slide, it says 70 non-alcoholic spirits, but I checked this morning and it's actually 90 alcohol-free spirits available all around the world. So we really see that there is a boom and an expansion of the no and low category, with more and more product coming into the market in the next, few weeks, few months, few years. And it's a really, really exciting time and an exciting moment to look into all the different options. So when we look at non-alcoholic spirits, I had the opportunity this year to judge the No and Low, the first No and Low awards for Imbibe. And it was so amazing to see the entire category and all the different options, and to really understand what was going on in this category. And so we looked at very much the different style of drinks that were coming into the market, the one that will mimic the product, and the one that will be more of a new way. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my presentation just for a moment to show you a few options that I have. As I said, there is 90 non-alcoholic spirits available around the world. So I'm not going to show you 90 different products, but just to show you a few different things for you if you are very new to this category and want to learn a bit more. So as I mentioned, Seedlip was the world's first non-alcoholic spirits. This is the first edition that they launched. This is the Garden 108, and they then launched two others, which is the Grove 42 and the Spice 94. They are very, very different, the three different ones, and they really come up with this idea and this desire to give option for people that didn't want to drink and to change the mind. I think that they were very pioneer and they've really paved the way in the category. But I do think that they were not always understood, because a lot of bartenders from around the world, and that might even be yourself, will tend to pour something, try it neat, and then be like, oh, expecting a gin or expecting a spirit, and then not understanding the power of the ingredients in this. So very much the invitation is, when you try non-alcoholic spirits, change your mindset. Don't think that you're going to be drinking alcohol, because absolutely 100% sure you will be disappointed, because obviously it does not contain alcohol. But maybe try it with just a little bit of tonic water, with a little bit of soda water to really help bring the lens, or just play around with cocktail. And you will see that, for example, Seedlip, it's so potent that it will really add some layers of complexity and really allow your cocktail to feel like a cocktail rather than a soft drink. So from those products that are more, Seedlip is a bit different, because I will say that they were so pioneer that they've really opened the way. And if you were to put it into a category, yes, maybe it will be more like a gin, because it's a distillation of botanicals. But for me, it's something that's standalone and is different. But then after opening the door for this new category, we've seen a lot of new product coming into the market, from things that are alternative to gin, like Cedars from Pernod Ricard, or Ethiopia, which I don't have a bottle. Yes, I think I do there. Ethiopia from William Grant, or things like smaller brand from like Sea Arch, which is a brand here in the UK that is a beautiful alternative to gin, with a little bit of samphire and quite salty, as is from the coast, and really add those layers of complexity into your drink. To then things that are more, again, as a mimic of the world favorite spirits, and Lyos has really mastered that. Lyos is an Australian company that has launched a really big portfolio of alcohol-free products, 13 different ones, from your alternative to a light rum. This is the white cane spirit, to something that will be a dark rum, like the dark cane spirit, or even they have a spice rum, to things like the American malt, which is, you know, celebrating the beautiful vanilla, oak, and caramel note that you will get into your classic bourbon. And all of them are really inspired by those favorite spirits around the world, and creating something that would have a similar taste profile, that would be an option for people that don't want to drink alcohol, but maybe like those flavors. So that's something to also explore. I will say, there is one category for me that is really, really thriving and doing so great, is the non-alcoholic aperitif category. Starting with Seedlip's sister product, which is Acorn. Acorn is the world non-alcoholic, first non-alcoholic aperitif. They have 3, but I only have 2 hands. So this is the dry and this is the bitter. They also have the aromatic, which is one of my favorites. They are a beautiful non-alcoholic aperitif made with verjus, loads of different botanicals, and are so beautifully designed, and an incredible alternative to an aperitif. And that doesn't mean that it's only for the mindful drinker or only for the people that are sober, but maybe also for you when you want to take a night off. Following, there is another product that is has launched here in the UK, but is looking at expanding around the world, and is so beautiful and made really with the power of nature and all the amazing botanicals around the world, which is Everleaf. Everleaf has it's a bittersweet aperitif made with gentian and some saffron, voodoo lily, and touch of vanilla, and a lot of like citrus coming through as well. And it's a really beautiful aperitif. Next, we have the newly launched beautiful Martini range, which is absolutely one of my favorites. They have launched the Vibrante and the Floreale. And what I love about this is the master blenders, Beppe and Ivano, took the same knowledge, the same savoir-faire, their expertise, and put it into creating something that will feel so inclusive into their portfolio. They use the same wine that they de-alkalize, they use the same botanicals, and even more to bring this structure. And if you smell it, it has the signature smell of Martini, and it's a really beautiful, both of them amazing non-alcoholic aperitif that you can just have with tonic water or with in a spritz or something like that. Lyos also have 2 non-alcoholic aperitif. They have a sweet vermouth and a dry vermouth, but they also have more of those like bitter liqueurs. One is the Italian spritz that is a celebration and made in to have something that is an alternative to Aperol, and then the Italian orange, which is more like a Campari. Lyos is available pretty much around the world, from Australia, US, and Europe. And some of the products are at the moment just available in Europe. So always have a look. And again, as I was saying at the beginning, you can always contact me if you have any question. So that's kind of like the aperitif selection, which I think is really exciting. When we're talking about the new waves and really creating something that is completely different, there is a few products that I really love what they're doing. One of them being 3 Spirits. So 3 Spirits decided that instead of creating something that will be a replica or inspired by a spirit that we already know, they just wanted to create a whole different experience. They are made with loads of different herbs and spices and adaptogen, and really created something that will be tapping into those reasons why people want to drink. So the social elixir is really uplifting and boosting your energy, when the livener is again very lifting, and the nightcap actually is something that you want to have at the end of the night, and is very soothing and perfect with the valerian roots to help with sleep. So I love what they're doing because it's really, really different. In the same idea of creating something that is different, we have 9 Elves here, which is an alternative to red wine and something that was built with lots of different berries and botanicals to create something that will be a non-alcoholic red wine that is not from de-alcoholized red wine, but actually made from scratch from different herbs and spices. So also a very interesting ingredients. And then this is more of a product that is made with de-alcoholized wine, but an amazing non-alcoholic sparkling wine is called Wildlife Botanicals. They have the blush, the rosé, and the nude, and they're also adding some botanicals, some adaptogens, some vitamins and mineral to create this real experience. So this is just to give you a little bit of a selection and a little bit of an idea. There's also things like I mentioned, apple cider vinegar, some shrub that are available. This is a switchel, which is an old recipes that we kind of forgot about, made with apple cider vinegar, ginger, a little bit of citrus. And those are amazing to use into cocktail. Of course, you can make it yourself, but some